This year we have 6 candidates for trustee. And let me get my little note over here. Well, the candidate that's not here is Miss Templeton. She's from Fullersburg and has decided not to be with us tonight. So there are actually 6 candidates. 5 are with us tonight. So let me introduce them to you and then we'll get underway. Right here on my left, incumbent Mike Manzo, who lives in Saddlebrook. Mike? Next to him, the Michaels are staying together. Michael Wenzel from Ginger Creek. Now you guys give me a break on this one, okay? Probably needs no introduction. From the Oak Brook Club, Illinois, Ed Teasinger. The bravest man in the whole world from Fullersburg, Charles Thompson. Thank you for being here. And finally, the other incumbent, and with Jerry retiring now, Asif has a very good opportunity to be the senior trustee. Asif Yosef from Brook Forest. I knew that. Okay. So because there's 5, we just changed the rule a little bit. We're going to give them 3 minutes to introduce themselves, then we'll go to a question and answer, and there'll be 2 minutes if you're the direct answer, 1 minute on a rebuttal. And guys, we want to stay a little bit closer to the time frame because the best part of this whole thing really is when you're done, you can network again with our residents. And by the way, Dr. Lamalani and Dr. Moy are both going to stick around, so you'll have an opportunity to talk to them. So I guess we can start right here. Michael, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Ed, and thank you to the Oak Brook Club for having this forum for us so we can learn about each other and learn about the issues in Oak Brook. Can everyone hear me? As was stated, Oak Brook was in a mess 4 years ago. And you may ask, why did I decide to run? Actually, I was recruited. A number of community leaders had asked me if I would consider running for the village of Oak Brook because we had an element from Cook County that had come in and had strong influence within our village. I decided to run. It was a very difficult election. I know Gopal touched upon it, but we were sued. Windows were broken. A robocall was put out at 3 in the morning pretending to be Gopal's wife to aggravate people. But fortunately, we won. And fortunately, more fortunately, we kept the promises we made 4 years ago to the residents of Oak Brook. And that's the most important thing. It's one thing to state that you're going to change the financial condition of the village. It's a whole nother matter to get into the village and actually do it. And if you look from 4 years ago till now, our cash reserves, which were going down, actually went up by 35%. If you look at our revenues to our expenditures in the last 4 years, if you total them up, our revenues exceed our expenditures by nearly $8 million. That's unheard of for any municipality. If you look at the transparency, because we wanted open and we wanted honest government, we didn't want decisions made behind closed doors any longer. We have made great strides with the help of the village clerk, Charlotte Pruce. We have live video streaming of board meetings. We have our board packets, the entire packet, online for residents to see. We have a check registry now, which allows the residents to see all of our expenditures without having to do a FOIA. And another promise we made, we promised to communicate with our residents and reinstate those meetings with the association presidents. And those are back on. So residents and the presidents can know what's going on in the village of Oak Brook. So I thank you very much for having this forum, and I look forward to answering all of your questions.
Mike Wenzel, 3 minutes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Wenzel. Want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Jerry, you've got some big shoes to fill, and I'd love to be part of it. I grew up in Oak Brook back in 1977. My parents bought a house out here. My wife, Anya, I've been married for 13 years. I have 3 children, Conrad, Sienna, and Marcel, ages 7, 5, and 2, young ones. I've got a business out here called One Chicago Realty. It's right down the street at 903 Commerce, right next to McDonald's headquarters. And I wanted to say that I've decided to run to preserve the great things in Oak Brook and to bring fresh ideas and responsible initiatives. Back about 5 years ago, a very good friend of the family by the name of Linda Ganella, she contacted me and she said, Michael, we're looking to get some great people in Oak Brook in office, some young, energetic, smart individuals. And I thought it was a great opportunity back in the time. Came home, spoke to my wife about it. We discussed it. And at the time, I think my wife was pregnant with our second child. I was working on building my business. And I said, Linda, I had a long time to think about it, but it's just the timing isn't that good right now. Then about 8 months ago, I spoke to Linda again. I said, Linda, this is a good time. I said, I feel comfortable. I said, this is a good time to get back into this. And so in the last 6 months, I've attended every single board meeting except for one. I've had a great opportunity to meet these other trustees, the president, Dr. Gopal, and lots of new friends and people in the village. And what I've noticed is the candidates are really talking about just one or two issues, pensions and budgets. What about experience, knowledge, and leadership? I truly believe that I do bring this to the table. Oak Brook needs candidates with a broad range of experience. And based on the skill sets from my background in commercial real estate, as well as marketing background, I believe that I'm the best candidate, the most competent for the job. I would love your vote, and thank you for your time.
Mr. Ed Teesinga.
I love the way you pronounce Teesinga. To get ready for tonight, I looked up the definition of trustee in my dictionary, and it said, one to whom something is entrusted. And then the definition went on. It said, able to see beyond one's own self-interest and to put the interests of others first, capable of understanding different points of view, knowledgeable in the ways of the world, comfortable being accountable for his actions, deep knowledge of bingo helpful but not required. And then in the list of synonyms I saw, in some communities also known as Jerry Wolin. So I thought, if entering local government is like coming into a new school, Jerry is the upperclassman who knows where everything is. He knows where the which classes to take and which ones to avoid. He knows how to get into the best parties. And I think Jerry Wolin has certainly earned his varsity letter. As our senior trustee, I think Jerry Wolin has defined this office. And so it's certainly a huge honor and a big responsibility to hope to follow in Jerry's shoes. So why am I doing this? Well, one of the interesting things about Oak Brook is it's such a diverse place. At the city council meetings I've attended, we've had a recognition of the Diwali holiday from India, the Chinese New Year from China. We had some discussion of the role of Islam in our public life recently at some of the meetings. And one of the obligations we have is to really be able to get along together in our little pattern state. And so I found a definition of a trustee from my own tradition from St. Peter's epistle. It says, why would you be a trustee? I said, not because we must, but because we are willing, not lording it over those entrusted to us, but offering ourselves for service so we can be an example to those that we are capable of governing ourselves. And so with your vote, I would like to do that. Here in Oak Brook, we limit our taxes. The power to tax is certainly the power to destroy. And so you'd have to say, what is the threat to Oak Brook that might require taxes? And that is certainly the pension threat. And I did a little research on the question, how many actuaries does it take to screw in a light bulb? And I found that Illinois has 1,427 police departments and 877 police departments, or fire departments and police departments, so a total of 2,304 pension plans. Each one has its own actuary and its own investment manager, so 4,608 people administer these plans. You say, why are these plans set up this way? The state of Illinois set them up through the pension code. And on every one of these 2,304 boards, the village representatives are outvoted by the union employee representatives. And that is a core issue driving this. And so the Illinois Policy Institute has calculated that in the years 2000 to 2010, the unfunded pension liability statewide for municipalities, just our part of it, has gone from $1 billion to $12 billion. And so my point on the pensions is everybody on the current board, I think, has worked very hard. The leadership of our village has done better and better with the pensions, but it's certainly a common disaster facing all of us. And that's one of the things I'd like to work on as your trustee.
Charles, you're on.
Thank you. Allow me to introduce myself to you. I'm Charles Thompson, and I like to go by Chuck. And my wife is with me here tonight, Dr. Joy Thompson, right here in the back. Yep, she has enjoyed this process alongside me. And I live in Fullersburg Woods. My family of 4 children. We moved here 2.5 years ago from Indiana, a low tax, low residential tax, and low business tax state that has done a fantastic job of balancing their budget and fixing their pension problem through the use of public-private partnerships. And so what happened was in the fall, during the gubernatorial election, I started really getting into the issue. I have a unique background that could help serve the community here in Oak Brook for the next 4 years. Because what will happen, I will explain quickly because we have about 3 minutes. But I just wanted to make sure you knew that I'm interested in this for the right reasons, to use my experience and background in investment management of over 20 years. I used to work 2 blocks from here for a decade in the 90s at Van Kampen Funds. That's where I started my career at a bond house, a fixed income asset manager. Great experience, and then went downtown Chicago to join a British firm for the last 15 and have built that business from 0 in assets to 17 billion, over 1 million shareholders. I'm a trustee on that mutual fund board overseeing those people's money, and we are very, very careful. Why did I get interested during Rauner's discussion and his ultimate win for the governorship? It was around the pension reform, and Illinois is the second worst state. And I would like to not sit on the sidelines. I would like to be right in the middle of the action, helping with the experience that I have in financial architecture, product development, and investment engineering to help us through this. And I think we could use that on the board. So I commend, through this process, all the candidates that I've gotten to know through this last couple months. They didn't know me 2 months ago, and I didn't know them. And you've probably just met me for the first time. But what I will tell you is this is my concern, and I want you to know what the truth is, because we heard it this week. I was the only candidate last night that went to the policeman's pension fund meeting. There are 2 trustees there, and I met Mr. Hitesh Patel. And we talked about a lot of things, and we had Lauterbach Associates, the actuary there, who I think did a very fine job of explaining why they had picked the actuarial table they are. And the previous night, quite a few fireworks at the, if you want to go online and see the video from Tuesday night, you'll hear that we have a $38.5 million pension liability. And in 10 months, GASB 68, so I don't want to get too technical or in the weeds, but in 10 months, our $27.5 million of cash reserves in Oak Brook will show a negative balance because we have a $38.5 million hole. I think there's many ways, creative ways I'd like to bring help to this issue, and I know that there are several ways that we can attack it, and I want to do it with passion, creativity, and with your vote, I can help the next 4 years be a part in that voice of the solution to the problem. Thank you.
And finally, our other incumbent trustee, Mr. Asif Yosef.
Thank you for coming and taking an interest in the direction our village goes in. One thing about going last is there are a lot of things that have been said that are great ideas, and if you agree with them and you repeat them, it looks like you're copying somebody else, but that's not the case. My name is Asif Yusuf. I live in Brook Forest. I've lived there in Oak Brook for 32 of the last 36 years. My parents moved to town right before my senior year of high school. Born in Chicago, moved to DuPage County when I was 4, and seen a lot of changes in the area, seen a lot of roads changed, a lot of development. The Midwest Club was a golf course when we moved in. And I am finishing my second term on the village board. I served from '03 to '07, re-elected in 2011. That term is ending now. I'm asking you to support me for one more term. I've worked closely with Jeff Kennedy. We served together on the board. I established a dialogue with him and a good rapport prior to him coming on the board. We talked about issues. I served with Jerry Wolin. Again, I believe we have an excellent working relationship, although sometimes he has to ask Carol for permission before he answers. But we won't go there. They already know that. Oh, okay. Well, the cat's out of the bag. And I cast a yes vote for Ed Main coming on the Fire and Police Commission. I think that was an excellent choice. I have a business degree. My business is commercial real estate and farming. I've acquired a fair amount of farmland in central Illinois. And I don't watch the stock market anymore. I watch the price of corn and soybeans. I have a real estate managing broker's license. I have an insurance producer's license. I used to have an appraisal license because I ran across too many appraisers that didn't know what they were doing, and I needed the professional standing to counter them. But they're only 24 hours in the day. Oh, boy, that goes quick. One point I want to make, and I'll come back to other things later. This isn't our village up here. This is your village. This is your government. Whoever you choose, we work for you. Rest assured that I'm very aware of that. My job is to protect the quality of life that every resident enjoys. I'm not taking any campaign contributions. I just shredded a check after calling the person the other day. I have an equal obligation to every one of the 7,883 residents in this village. We've righted the ship, we've set it on a good course, and the real question isn't how much of a mess there was 4 years ago. The real question is, had there not been a change, where would we be now? Not only did we stop the downward slide, but we turned it around and set it on the right track. We've built our reserves, we've projected stability in the village administration, and when people look at coming into town, that's what drives them. If they see instability, if they see inconsistency, they'll go somewhere else. They'll be gone. We've been fair with people, and I've got a whole lot more to say, which hopefully I'll get some follow-up questions that will cover it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Asif. Okay, pretty much the same program as before. If you want, I'll ask the first question, and then we'll alternate until we're had enough. First question. Do you support the village's ongoing efforts to encourage commercial revitalization to make our commercial districts and streets more attractive and user-friendly? Mr. Thompson?
Yes, indeed, I do. I think I attended the board meeting where Jeff Kennedy showed all of the new signage that will be put up in the village, and I thought to myself, you know, a community like Oak Brook that is the jewel of DuPage County, and 50% of our tax revenues come from people coming into Oak Brook, they didn't really know when they entered Oak Brook prior. I found Oak Brook because I looked for the low taxes, and I've said this before in other meetings, but it's saying something when I actually pay lower taxes here in Oak Brook than I paid in Munster, Indiana, which we called the Dutch Protectorate down in northwest Indiana. And the beautification, I think those signs show that we're progressing and we're a progressive community and we're asking businesses to come in. I think it's been a very good use. I think there's been some comments that I agree with tonight that Dr. Moy made about value. Sometimes the value is that bringing businesses, knowing that the 400,000 people that come through these borders know that they're in Oak Brook, and that has been a very important part, and I commend Jeff Kennedy and the Beautification Committee for the work they've done there.
Thank you. Anybody else? Asif, 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. Well, we need to set Oak Brook apart from the surrounding areas. We need to do something to create that wow factor, because that'll drive other investment. It'll drive the attractiveness of the town. It'll bring people in They'll generate revenue. That revenue can be used to protect the quality of life we all enjoy and the village services we receive. So that is not an expense, that's an investment. And there is a difference. There's not an accounting difference in municipal accounting, but there's a real life difference. And it's an investment in our future, and it's an investment to protect our quality of life.
Okay, thank you, Ed. I feel it's imperative to stay on that, with the commercial revitalization. And, there's many older buildings in Oak Brook. And when you really compare Oak Brook to Oak Brook Terrace, we want to stay on top of things. We want to make sure that when businesses are coming to Oak Brook, that they're looking at us keeping up with it. And, looking at Oak Brook. So there's really two different issues that I see here. One of them is the older buildings that really need to be torn down and rebuilt in Oak Brook. And if you look, for example, at like the Hub Group or Duchossois, those are two great companies that have moved to Oak Brook and is really generating a lot of excitement, a lot of added income. It gets transferred over to the retail sales tax dollars and so forth. And then looking at some of the existing buildings, for example, the Golub Group, which is one of my clients, they bought the Oak Brook Towers right on 22nd Street over here. They're going to be putting $10 million into redoing, revitalizing, the buildings over there and bringing new tenants to work with the new space, new infrastructure that is needed in Oak Brook. Thank you.
Yes, obviously support the commercial revitalization, also support the beautification. We brought it back. That was one of our focal points when we were elected 4 years ago, bringing those committees back. They've worked very, very well with the board. There's been tremendous progress made on that. And we've voted recently to move forward with beautification projects. Some interesting facts. I looked at some of the numbers regarding economic development. As Mr. Wenzel had mentioned, Hub Group and Duchossois have decided to build brand-new headquarters here in Oak Brook. They could have gone anywhere, but they decided to come here. We have new retailers coming every single day. We have a new $50 million project on the horizon. But I went to go look at the numbers, and I saw in 2010, the Village of Oak Brook, with commercial and residential new construction, there was about $58 million in value. If you look at that number over the last 2 years, it grew to $131 million last year and $110 million this year. That's an amazing accomplishment, and we'd like to keep it going.
Ed, you want to jump in there?
I think we have an interesting process issue with the revitalization committee, and what it gets to in my mind is we have the residential piece, which we've all seen out here. We have the walkway, which now goes across the street. And pretty soon we'll have the flashing lights, which will stop 85% of the cars. So you're on your own. It's the other 15% who won't stop. It certainly makes it easier for the hotel people to be able to walk to the mall, not have to walk through the mud or in the street. And I've seen that from the roof or from the window of my office. But I think the bigger process issue is that the village can only give an impulse to the commercial development because the village doesn't have the budget to build these buildings. Village has a budget this year of $53 million. These buildings cost hundreds of millions of dollars to put up. What we can do is create a good environment by focusing on key infrastructure and by partnering with the other agencies that take care of our bridges and our highways. And I've been so impressed with Jeff, he's shown me his Gantt chart of projects. Every time I've heard somebody complain about something about the village, I've realized it's on Jeff's Gantt chart. It's just a question of getting there and being able to line up the money and the people to be able to put together the project. And so I'm glad that we do have that process underway.
Thank you. Residents, question? Okay. The State Election Commission reports that one candidate for village office have received $5,000 in contributions from Orange Crush, a paving contractor, and another company that appears to be a potential bidder for village business. Have you accepted and will you accept campaign contributions from current or potential vendors? And I'd like all of you to answer this. You can all have 2 minutes.
Start on this side.
If you want, go ahead.
Sure. Before I answer the question, I just wanted to set the record straight on a statement that was made earlier. Our cash reserves will not be in a negative balance by the end of this year, I can assure you that. It will probably go up as it did each and every year. Also, clarification regarding the pension and pension investments. Unfortunately, our village board has no say on where the pension investment funds are going. That is determined by the pension board, which is a separate board, and we only appoint 2 of the 5 members, so our members that we appoint are in the minority, so I wanted to make that clear. As far as contributions, no, I won't accept contributions from businesses. The only contributions I've accepted to date, 2 small contributions from friends totaling, one was for $25 and I think one was for $20. This campaign will be paid with my funds. Unfortunately, I had to tell my wife she had to cut back on some of the expenses, but I think that's the right way to do it in Oak Brook. We don't want to create a pay-to-play environment. I was embarrassed with the fact that the previous administration sent our then police chief to a business, an establishment, to get a large contribution before their liquor license was up. That does not work in Oak Brook. Perhaps in Chicago, but not in Oak Brook. You don't have to give a $10,000 donation, and it certainly shouldn't be linked to renewing your liquor license.
Thank you, Michael. Let's just go down the line, I guess. Mike Wenzel?
Thank you, Ed. So I have not currently received any campaign contributions, and I will not receive any campaign contributions. As Dr. Mark Moy had said, I'd like to echo, the potential liabilities or any potential group or, private, people that would ask you for potential favors down the road. I refuse contributions. Thank you.
Ed?
I think this gets to whether there's 2 different types of towns. And at the Oak Brook Civic Association, I named a town, but I don't think I'm going to do that again. Let's just say there are towns out there where every contractor who works for that town gives between $1,000 and $5,000 to somebody's campaign fund. And I was having a lunch meeting today with somebody, and we were talking about this, and I looked at her, I said, your family gives X dollars to so-and-so, this guy who runs this town. Why do they do that? They said, well, because we did a real estate deal with them, and it's just well known. If you want to get your approvals, you're going to have to pay some money to the guy in charge. And I looked at the list, which was available on the Chicago Tribune, and there they are, all the contractors. Then there are towns where none of the contractors give money to the people in charge, and that's Oak Brook. There's no record of all the contractors ponying up $1,000 or $5,000. And so the best way to keep Oak Brook that way is for those of us who are running for office to not set that pattern. And so, no, I have not accepted any contributions from any businesses who do or would be doing business with Oak Brook.
Okay. Because I'm regulated by all of the financial regulations for my business with Henderson, I'm regulated under FINRA, Financial Regulatory Authority. You can actually go and look at my 22-year record in the FINRA database under broker check. I'm not a broker. I work for an investment manager, as I mentioned before. And those rules with Sarbanes-Oxley in 2011 maxed out our contribution ability to take any contributions at $100. And I can tell you I've not received any because no one knows who I am until this meeting. And that's the plain truth. I do want to respond. Last night, I had heard this coming up over, so that's the answer to the question, but I want to use the second part of the second minute for a rebuttal, because I kept hearing this come up. So have you all heard of the Hippocratic Oath? Yes, okay. In finance, the chartered financial analyst takes the financial Hippocratic Oath, and I believe in it very strongly. I'm a value investor. I believe you have to do everything with integrity. The numbers don't lie. How many of you watch Shark Tank? A few of you. Kevin O'Leary says they clarify and they quantify. So I asked Mr. Todd Schroeder of Lauterbach and Associates last night how the state of Illinois and the Government Accounting Standards Board, GASB, rule number 68 will be applied to our village assets and reserves last night. And he said, quote, pension obligations will be booked against the other funds in the village at the end of December 2015, It is listed as a footnote in December 2014 right now. And in 10 months, we will indeed have that $38.5 million underfunding, and we're going to need to come up with creative ideas to make sure that we keep our low taxes. Quote, Todd Schroeder, from yesterday at the Policeman Pensions Fund and the report of the actuarial study. Thank you.
No, I'm not taking any contributions. I haven't in past races. I will not in this race. I will be responsive to each and every person in this village that brings an issue to me, and I'll give them an honest answer that's not jaded by what they did or didn't do, because that's out of the question. However, if you believe in my message and you want to help me, I will happily accept your taking a few minutes and making a few phone calls to your neighbors and sharing your opinion with them. That is a contribution I will happily accept. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Once again, I go to the residents. Are there any questions? Kathy?
One of these trustees take the place of Dr. Moy if he wins the election?
No, here's how it goes.
Okay.
There's 3 spots open because Jerry is stepping down. So 3 of these gentlemen will be elected as trustees. If Dr. Moy is not successful, he still has 2 years left on his term as a trustee. If he, and get ready to help me, Jerry, if he is successful, then I think he could maybe nominate
I think he's appointed by the president. The replacement is appointed by the president.
and confirmed by the board. Okay, so,
Okay, so he would pick his own replacement?
no. If Dr. Moy would be successful, he would pick a person to be the trustee in his place.
Correct.
But these gentlemen, along with the 3 incumbents, would have to confirm that,
Okay.
okay? Just like they do with, it's the same thing with a committee appointment, okay?
Well, Paul is successful, then Dr. Moy just stays in his...
Stays as a trustee for 2 more years, and then he'll have a decision to make,
Okay.
okay? All right, whoops. Okay, no more questions? All right, let's try this one. You guys love to talk financial matters, so do you believe that the village is in sound financial shape? And please explain. Asif, why don't you lead off?
I think the village is generally in good financial shape. We've made a lot of positive progress in the last 4 years. The pension issue is there. It's not just our issue. It's an issue facing every community in the state of Illinois. The state legislature has placed burdens upon every community without a thought as to how those would be dealt with. The fix has to come from Springfield, and we're not trying to pawn it off or shift the blame. The problem is driven by legislation passed in Springfield that mandates certain things. Now, we can take baby steps. We can try and do some things. Some have to be done through negotiation because our public safety personnel are union represented. And, but we'll do whatever we can in the interim, and we'll lobby for a change. And those guys aren't going to do it in Springfield for Oak Brook. They don't have a lot of sympathy for us. But when they see other communities being threatened with bankruptcy, which will happen way before it happens to us, then they will start doing something. When they see a lot of firefighters being laid off and out of work, then they will do something. So unfortunately, we're not going to be the impetus for the solution, but there will be a solution because the status quo is not viable in the long run and has to be fixed by Springfield. But generally, we're in a positive direction. Every year we're putting money in the bank. And to me, when it's all said and done, that means something is going right. We're putting money in the bank and we're making significant capital investments.
Charles?
Yes, I do. I think that it concerned me when I looked at our books and I read the entire 290-page budget before I got the signatures to do this, and that's what got me interested. I wanted to know what our town looked like. I know, financial analyst, can't help myself. What concerned me was we are spending like we're in an economic recovery. And when we do go into an economic downturn, which is the normal cycle of things, are we ready? And with the burgeoning pension deficit, which was 33% more increase in 1 year, 2014 to 2015, that was another number I got, we are paying more. So I commend the trustees and Dr. Gopal for adding more to the pensions. That was absolutely important. But where we are right now is we need more creative ideas, and I think that Oak Brook should be a leader in the voice, and I have several ideas that I've reserved, and you'll have to trust my financial background, because it's not, it will become political fodder, but I believe there are ways that we can achieve solutions, because you can't pay credit card debt and pay the minimum payment and have it kicked down for our children 25 years. These actuarial studies are 25 years, and 1%, the hurdle rate on year 1 magnifies by 5- and 6-fold out in the 25th year. And I think we need to, be the leader in Springfield, not necessarily just wait for them to make some decisions. And by the way, these are our municipal public pension funds, police and fire. We do have a voice on what we do, and one of the steps that was taken was to add more to the pension funding, and that is a great baby step, as Asif mentioned. And so I want to be a part of that solution. I have several creative ideas. I think that once the town realizes that we will have negative liabilities on our books, the next 4 years, it'd be awfully nice to have a pension or a lawyer on the board that understands pension codes, because there will be many to sift through, and it'll be awfully helpful to have an investment management person who has experience building products that have turned into billion-dollar portfolios and helped people all along the way. So I'll leave it there.
1 minute.
I
Okay.
have one more minute?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was born to talk, so.
He sounds like he's been elected already. Okay. Ed, go ahead.
Here are the numbers from the meeting on Tuesday night where we had Jason Franken from Foster & Foster, who is the Fire Department Pension Fund Actuary and the Oak Brook Village Actuary. Unfunded liability right now, $38 million for Oak Brook. Next year, $41 million. How much has to get paid against that? Last year, $3.1 million was paid. This coming year, the bill is going to be $3.5 million. Jason said it's going to go up by a factor of 3 in the very foreseeable future. We're looking at $9 million a year if the thing continues. What that does is it vaporizes the reserves of Oak Brook. But that's not alarmism, because the good news is, as Asif pointed out, and as Mike Manzo will point out, Oak Brook is the second most solvent community in Illinois right now. And the Tribune article lined them all up against all the other towns. Only Rosemont is ahead of us, but Rosemont is sort of a very unusual thing. So as Ernest Hemingway said, how do you go bankrupt? And he said, 2 ways, gradually and then suddenly. That's from The Sun Also Rises. But one of the problems is it's just guesswork, because all these actuary models, they change all over the place. And one of the great things that this village did this year, through the leadership of Trustee Wolin, is say, let's stop taking these snapshots and guessing. Let's get a 25-year actuarial study with a modeler component. And the letter confirming this, this contract for the actuary says, to allow the user to see estimated financial results based on various assumptions, asset returns, amortization methods, and cost methods. That's the missing link. We've got to model the future a little better, and then I think we can take decisive action with the things we can control, and then at least we can be an honest witness to the damage being done to us by the state of Illinois.
Michael?
Thank you. So, one of the things that I'm hearing time and time again is, many people are talking about issues in Oak Brook, or the small issues that potentially would come up, and then they look at, well, how are we going to solve them, or what are we going to do to solve them? And it always seems to me like it's playing catch up, or I believe we need to look at things as a preventative maintenance standpoint. We need to always be conservative and prudent about our spending, and always look at what we could do to increase revenue in Oak Brook. I think with Rick Jennings, it's very important to review each department and make most each department the most cost-effective as possible. Most village employees are well compensated and get good benefits and pensions, and we just really need to be conservative moving forward. I believe it's very important to go out for bid, and I just can't stress enough to go, to try to raise revenue and try to keep our spending at bay. Thank you.
Michael?
Ed, you were absolutely correct. Yes, the Daily Herald talks about the financial strength of Oak Brook and the great job we've done with the finances. You've already heard about our cash reserves going up. All of our reserves for all of our funds total about $28.5 million, while we only have $820,000 in long-term debt. So that's quite an accomplishment. But I agree with Mike Wenzel. We have been extremely conservative with the tax dollars. Just a couple of points. Our budget, we have been under budget each and every year. So when the budget has been passed, we have never even met it. We've always been underneath. More importantly, with our revenues that we've budgeted, we have exceeded them each and every year of the last 4 years. That's conservative. You have some villages, some municipalities that will inflate their revenues so they can perhaps pretend that they passed a balanced budget when in fact they did not. We don't do that in Oak Brook. We decided long ago to have no debt and no taxes, and we did exactly that for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Okay. Residents? Okay, here's my last question, and then we'll get into a little closing comment. We all agree that the Oak Brook business community is a valuable asset to the village, okay? Have you ever met with the Oak Brook Chamber of Commerce or the managing officers of the Oak Brook Center, of McDonald's, of Ace Hardware, of Hub Transportation, in regards to their goals and how the village of Oak Brook could help them? Michael Wenzel?
Sure, thank you, Ed. Yes, I was at the last meeting a couple weeks ago at the Chamber of, I need to reset the, at the Chamber, excuse me.
You're okay.
All right, thank you. At the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum, and I had met with Tracy Mulqueen as well as Dennis Hiffman, and we actually spoke during the meeting, we spoke after the meeting, I presented there at the meeting, and it's interesting because their beliefs is that, we've obviously severed the ties and the relationship that we've had with the chamber, and from me, coming from my background with the commercial real estate, I really want to support the Development Economic Committee at the chamber, as well as the chamber. Those businesses are our clients. It's very, very, very important for us to support the chamber, all of their doings, and to make them successful, to help them become successful, and to work with them very closely. So I strongly believe in the relationship, to help build on it, to help grow with the chamber, and it will help us, it'll help the residents in turn. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes, so as the newest resident, I can answer that the Chamber of Commerce meeting that they held 3 weeks ago at the candidate forum was the first time I had met Tracy Mulqueen, and we hit it off. I really had a great time discussing things with her after, how it went, what the businesses were concerned about. But having been previously a 10-year Oak Brook employee of an investment firm, I know how important it is. And I started to reach around, met with Huizinga Capital Management, Peter Huizinga, the principal there. I've met with Hiffman, with both Dennis and Ben Kremer. Ben is a member of my church. I just was named a elder at Christ Church of Oak Brook, and my entire family is there. I'm also a mentor for freshman boys, and I've really enjoyed that. And so, as a business person, this is the people I feel the most comfortable with, and I do think that one of the levers that we can use to get out of this situation that we will face the next 4 years, because I can't speak to the past. I wasn't even here the whole 4-year term for some of the trustee candidates that are before me. But what I can tell you is, as a business person, I think that this, with 50% of our sales tax revenue coming from businesses, they are what fund Oak Brook. And I will reach out to many business people, both in a networking, not a self-interested capacity, because 75% of my business is Europe. What I'd like to do is let those business people know that we have a sound investment person giving good advice, fair and balanced advice to the trustee board, also helping to make motions for solutions to our issues that we will face in the next 4 years, because if they are exacerbated by an economic downturn at the same time, we'll need sound financial management on the board. And I would love to be, able to use my gifts and experience and passion for this to help bring more business to Oak Brook.
Time. 1 minute. 1 minute. Asif?
I've met with all of them. I got 4 of the 5 in my cell phone here. I met with one of the Yeager brothers from the Hub Group when they had the groundbreaking. I gave him my card. The door's open. Any further discussions have just been quickly in passing. I talk to Tracy regularly, talk to Joe Andrus from McDonald's regularly, Chuck, and I can't remember his last name, from ACE, see him. I attend the chamber functions, and we've not severed our ties with the chamber. We've changed the structure. We had a partnership where we were contributing resources and they were contributing resources for specific projects, and it worked good, and now the chamber wants to emphasize their independence, and they still have an interest to work with us and make good things happen for the area, for the business community. And they need to know the door's open, and we're going to listen. My business card has my cell phone number on here. The old one had my home number on there, but we hardly use the home phone now. And this is the only business card I have, and I pass out, and I give it to everyone, and I am accessible. And if I don't answer, I will call you right back. And if I'm here the next 4 years, nothing's going to change on this. I'll still be as accessible to the residential and business community.
Time. See this lady here, it
I
says,
only
stop.
stretched it once.
Okay.
The other ones I cut it off quick.
Okay.
I should get her minutes because she's not here.
I'm gonna- Eddie?
Yes, I've met with all these representatives of all these businesses. I enjoy business people. It's what I do with my law firm. We represent probably 150 businesses. I started my career at ServiceMaster in Downers Grove and worked closely with the McDonald's people, particularly George Rummel, on the then Illinois Attorney General Neil Hartigan's Franchise Advisory Board, because Illinois is a center for franchising worldwide, as exemplified by McDonald's. I know Tracy Mulqueen and Dan Wagner from the Chamber. I know Chuck Fleming, whose real name is Richard, who manages our office building, and he's come here and talked to us about the mall expansion. I've talked to John Venheisen from Ace Hardware. The Hub Group is interesting because their general counsel just retired after 18 years, and he's only about 45 years old. His name is Dave Zielstra, and Dave clerked for our law firm after he he got an independent study with our law firm when he was at Wheaton College. And we did a study together because Eastern Europe had just fallen and gone free from under the Iron Curtain, and they were trying to structure their institutions to then be free. And we studied that and wrote a paper, and I think that's really what Oak Brook needs to do, is keep our structures of capitalism very free, and I think Hub Group is an excellent example of that.
Time. Trustee Manza?
Yes, as an incumbent, I've been very fortunate to work with many of the business leaders in the village of Oak Brook. As the chairman for the Taste of Oak Brook, I'm proud to announce that McDonald's has again given us the $100,000 donation, who without them, we would not be able to have the Taste of Oak Brook or the fireworks. Chuck Fleming, Joe Andrus, Tracy Mulqueen with the Chamber. We have a great relationship. We have business leaders on many of our committees. We have the hotel committee that meets regularly. So we have a great synergy with the business community in Oak Brook. But as a trustee, we have to be very careful. We want to make sure that the business community is happy and moving forward and willing to invest in Oak Brook, but we also have to look at the rights of the residents. And that $50 million project is a perfect example. It's right in your backyard. And we're going to need to make sure that that is done properly and the residents all support it.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we're going to go to a 2-minute final. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay? You guys are a tough group. All right.
If we go to 2.5, throw it at us.
Where do we want to start? Let's start with Michael Wenzel. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Ed. So again, thank you everybody for coming tonight. And, you know, some of the most important topics, issues, things about running here, safety is very important to the village to me. Maintain a high level of police and fire. Basically the well-being of the village, the residents, businesses, as well as the community. Accountability. To make sure that the board is accountable, you know, everybody in government and, you know, the issues and everything is addressed properly and we move swiftly, streamlined approach, and make sure it just happens very well. As well as solving issues, diligent plan to work swiftly on the agenda items, and then the revitalization for the commercial as well as the resident. The residential, I believe it's very important to have continuity. You know, if you look at the different neighborhoods, and you know, it almost seems like there's 27 or 28 different neighborhoods in Oak Brook. You know, this is one great community. You know, I coached Little League Baseball here. You know, I'm part of the Ginger Creek Board. I've made many, many friends and acquaintances here, and I'm passionate. I'm very passionate about Oak Brook, and your vote would really matter. I would jump in with both of my feet and roll up my sleeves and, you know, make sure that everything is done to the best of my power and, you know, keeping it honest, keeping it clean, and, you know, doing it for the people. So thank you very much.
Ed, one of you?
Last night I went to a seminar down in Chicago, and Sam Zell, the famous billionaire trailer park king who became the mega investor, was the speaker. And just as an offshoot of that, they were passing out a card for something called the Chicago Forum. And the idea was, what is a healthy city? And here's what they said. There's 4 pillars vital to a city life: business, education, arts, culture, and civics. And I thought, what are they missing here? They're missing we the people. Or maybe they just assume the people. But I will never forget the people, and that I think the residents of Oak Brook are the primary concern that I will have. I will be here to serve as your trustee when the 100,000 other people go home every night, because you're the people that I'll be responsive to, and it will be my pleasure, my privilege to keep Oak Brook fiscally conservative, responsive to you, our residents, and then open for business. But as a last priority, open for business, because the first priority is you. Thank you.
Chuck?
Thank you. I want to thank Ed for putting on this great event. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you all for my first time at the Oak Brook Club. I wanted to get involved. The reason I told you I got involved was to get to know my community, and I did that in the mid-2000s in Indiana, and I served on a water board, and I never knew what I would be getting into because Hammond was overcharging rates, and we had to do a similar thing with four guys on our board and help all the other 4 communities that were getting gouged by Hammond to get together and collegially work together to solve that problem. And the other thing is we decided to change the color of the water tower, and I never knew how many people would show up because they didn't like the color we had chosen. And so we heard from the people and we changed the color. But I'm doing this because I wanted to get to know my community. I wanted to get to know fellow folks that were on the trustee board and running for the trustee board. And I've really enjoyed this process. I've held this loosely because I wanted to get involved and be a part of the solution of Illinois' pension problem, primarily because of my financial background. So I've told you a lot about that tonight. But I didn't tell you about my leadership style and how we built a business. And I want to leave that, why that collegial culture and that ability to work together and find collective wisdom. There's some pretty experienced businessmen up here, some pretty experienced lawyers. Yeah, I'm not going to do it alone. It's bringing that collegial working together and finding the experience that we all draw from, those 10,000 man-hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about, reaching your highest level of experience. And so I want to work, and I'm asking for your vote because I want to work collegially with the board to bring whoever the president may be the right motions that will navigate us through the serious issues that we will face the next 4 years. Thank you.
Awesome.
We should not take the business community for granted. We should realize what they contribute to Oak Brook, and we should not take our residents for granted. And we should realize what they contribute to Oak Brook and the fact that we are there to serve the people of Oak Brook. You can never lose sight of that. I am not a politician. I'm a public servant, and I'm here to serve you if you give me the opportunity to do so for the next 4 years. And I hope everybody here has the same mindset. Experience counts. We've done the right things over the last 4 years, and we've set things in the right direction, and we want to keep that going, and we want to continue to project stability. When I go and meet a business person, the most I have is a cup of coffee. I've not taken any free meals. I've not taken any favors. I don't believe it's the right thing to do. You can't do anything to project anything less than 100% objectivity. I have the endorsement of our state senator, our 2 county board members from this district, our county clerk, the county forest preserve district chairman, the county auditor, and they, with one exception, they don't live in town, and they're not going to vote in this election. But it means I have a good working relationship with them, and we can reach out, we can get things done in an environment of mutual respect. What I'm asking for now is your endorsement, your decision that you want me there looking out for your interests for the next 4 years. Please consider me. I have a flyer back there. My phone number's there. If you have any questions, call. You'll get an honest answer. I can't guarantee it'll be the answer you like, but it'll be an honest answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Asa. All right, Michael, a little while ago, we started with you, so we'll finish with you.
Well, the difficulty in going last is you have Asif Yusuf stealing my thunder. So I do agree with many of the things that Asif said. We certainly are public servants. I was humbled, as was President Gopal Lamalani, along with Ed Tazinga, Asif Yusuf, and myself. We were endorsed by the Daily Herald after meeting with the editor-in-chief. And some of the comments that were made, and I appreciate them very, very much, was that residents happy with the village's improved direction would do well to return Mike Mansell to the board. I was very appreciative of that. They made other statements about Ed Tazinga, myself, Gopal, about how we've brought this village and we're heading in the right direction. 4 years ago, we sat in this room and we addressed Oak Brook Club residents. The dais, I believe, was the other way 4 years ago. And we made a promise, and that was a promise to you, that we'd clean up Oak Brook. And if we got in there, we would make sure we would clean house. There would be no more Cook County influence. We'd take care of our financial records. We'd reduce our attorney fees. We've done all that. And now we ask you for 4 more years to build on our record of success. And I thank you for your consideration.
Okay, once again, I think we've been proven that we have five candidates that will be vying for our vote. And so we thank you for coming. I hope you will stick around. My closing comment to you is simply this, that first of all, I see Jeff getting up, so as a delegate on the CAT board, Susan is here and Peter is here. And Jeff, we all work together, and we thank the CAT board for putting this program together. We would not be so silly to think that we could tell you how to vote, but we can think we can educate and help you make the proper decision. So thank you so very much. It's been my pleasure. Hope to see you all again. And when's our CAT board? 2 weeks, and we'll get together. So Mort, I hope this helped you. I'm sure I could tell you if you have a problem while I'm gone, give Jerry a call or give Jeff a call. They'll be glad to help you. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your attention.